Hey kids, you're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast. Prepare for the SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. Joining as usual, we've got Pernell, Chris, Andy, and Aki. How are you four doing?
Great.
Hey.
All right.
I'm doing good enough. I built a bunch of Gunpla and bad enough that I couldn't do much but build Gunpla.
That sounds about my week, too, but replace build cool. Gunpla with play New World Eternum.
Honestly, I was expecting you to say, smoking a lot of pot.
Oh, that's just par for the course, really.
That's what he calls smoking pot. New World Eternal.
Yeah.
Fair.
My new world. Anyway, we've got a friend joining us this episode, Sam Greszes. How are you doing today? Did I say it right?
No, no one gets it right the first time. It's fine. It's Greszes. It's a lot easier. Greszes. It's so much easier than it looks.
With the S and the Z, you gotta
Polish.
You gotta tone it down, man. Come on.
I know. Too many consonants.
For failure.
I'm bad at my job the way it is. So we go back quite a ways. How long have we known each other?
I mean,
20 years? Yeah,
it was high school. It was my first MagFest when I was 17, 18, maybe younger. So back from the Overclocked Remix days.
Overclocked Remix, One Up Studios.
Yeah.
Overlooked Remix.
Oh my God. Yep. That old chestnut.
Oh yeah. That was a thing.
Interesting times. Good times. Interesting times though.
But what have you been up to in the recent years? You've got a Kickstarter that you want to talk about, eh?
Yeah. So I am currently a Chicago-based video games writer, social media guy, PR professional, just kind of a freelancer in the video games industry with things that have to do with words.
Wait, you do PR? Can you tell people to listen to our show?
Sure. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that'd be awesome.
Can do. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Dude,
I'll give
we're going to get a listener. Guys.
You're giving me some free promo. Least I can do is do the same for y'all. But yeah, so yeah, of course. So because I am terminally online, not just for my job, but just generally as a person, I was up late one night and I had an idea right before I was falling asleep. What if there was a board game or a party game where you have all of the terrible arguments that you love having on Twitter, but you don't feel bad doing it, where it's fun instead of making you want to jam an ice pick up your nose until you can't feel pain.
That's a hard line to toe.
Yeah. So I went to sleep immediately after jotting some stuff down in my notes app. I woke up, and what I told myself when I went to sleep is I'm gonna tackle this again when I'm awake and alive. And if I think it's a good idea, then I'll see. So I started making some mock-ups. I started drafting the rules, and now we have a Kickstarter. We have an actual product that could be on sale soon.
And tell us about it. What's in the bundle? What is
what is the game?
Give us all the info. What do you do?
Sure.
Can we play it in Discord, or does it have to be a local thing?
Yes and no. There are print and play versions that I'm selling where you definitely could do some asynchronous, asymmetrical play, but it's designed to be played in person. That said, I have kind of toyed with like putting it up on like Tabletop Simulator or something like that. I'm kind of focusing on this first, but like, yeah, there's nothing about the game that I guess disqualifies it from being, a kind of like a Jackbox style party game that you can play remotely. But I'm focusing on the in-person thing first to just see if it's viable, get it off the ground. The way it works generally is it'll kind of be familiar to anyone who's played Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples, but with like a bunch of different like gameplay mechanics going on. So it starts very similarly. You get dealt a hand of essentially 5 cards with nouns on them. So they could say like millennials or shrimp cocktail or MMORPGs or 30 to 50 feral hogs or, whatever. And then you'll get dealt 2 cards that have like connecting phrases or words on them. So something like is or is not or is killing or is the shadow organization behind or something like that, right? Those cards are, I call them hill cards, and those are essentially your victory points. You win if you get 5. Everyone starts with 2. If you're a theater kid, if you were on debate team, if you took improv classes, or if you have a law degree, immediately you have to discard one of those cards. I have built-in nerfs into this game to make it fair and fun. So yeah, it's fair because it affects me. I am and was a theater kid. So you can't complain to me if you think it's not fair. I am nerfing myself, and I'm already like, I'm actually really bad at this game. I don't think I've won it once in playtesting.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, yeah, right. So play starts. You'll have the deck of debate cards, the cards with the nouns on them. You'll have the deck with the hill cards, the cards with the connecting phrases on them. And from the deck, you'll flip 2 hill cards face up and then pick 2 noun cards from your hand to kind of like match with one of the cards. So you could make a phrase that says 30 to 50 feral hogs is killing millennials. If you played your 30 to 50 feral hogs card and your millennials card on either side of the is killing card, right? So essentially you make a phrase with across 3 cards. And that phrase is the phrase that you are going to spend 45 seconds arguing in favor of to the rest of the players, right? Now,
there's the twist.
That's the twist, right? I'm not making your jokes for you. I'm not making your arguments for you. It's not just you vote on the funniest, wildest phrase. You got to back yourself up. You can't just rely
on the shock humor. You got to think behind what you're doing and have 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah. That was kind of, because that's one of, like, I love Cards Against Humanity, but that's kind of been one of my frustrations with the game is that, like, it does kind of, it can make your jokes for you, right? Like, you kind of, like, it gives you your angles and you have to play the angles you're given. Making this game, I kind of wanted to allow for a little bit more creativity in that aspect, right? So, like, you can put something down and then kind of subvert expectations, make a point that people didn't expect. The thing though is that if you're making a debate, you got to debate against someone, right? So Die on This Hill is made up of one-on-one, like head-to-head debates between the person who made the phrase and another player who, like, you slam down an action card, essentially saying you want to debate against the active player. So if I'm arguing 30 to 50 feral hogs is killing millennials, someone would be arguing the opposite of that like maybe millennials are killing too many feral hogs, or it's a cage match. You just try and prove me wrong however you can. You could say I'm actually a secret, like a secret mole from, from the 30 to 50 feral hogs, like shadow government. And I'm trying to propagandize, and, it's all been a false flag operation, right? There's no rules. It's the internet, right? So you can do whatever you want. During the debate, after, like, I get 45 seconds, then the devil's advocate, the person who's arguing against me, gets 45 seconds. During that time, the way you pick a winner is everyone else has these emoji tokens that they're essentially like throwing into trays that are in front of the active player and the devil's advocate. And they're reacting kind of like it's a live stream, right? So I have heart emojis, I have like the poop emoji, I have the crying laughing emoji for when someone makes you madder than you've ever been in your life. I have the eyes emoji, I have the fire emoji for hot, I have the mind blown emoji. So like people are just kind of reacting with those, and then the tray with the most emoji tokens in it takes the hill card for the round. It doesn't matter if the reaction was positive or negative. Once again, we're like, these are internet rules, right? Any engagement is good engagement. So that's kind of like the basic structure of the game. It's a series of one-on-one debates that people kind of vote on in real time. The other twist that I put in is sabotaging. So let's say I play my phrase. We can go with 30 to 50 feral hogs is killing millennials. If you have a card in your hand that you think would make the phrase even funnier and a lot harder to argue in favor of, I'm trying to think, like, what would be a good...
The SML podcast is killing millennials.
Sure. Yeah, we could say that. So if you had a card that
that's
said
if I drop $500 on the create my own card option.
Very true. Yeah, we can make that happen. So you, as someone who's not the active player, if it's like not your turn, you could essentially wager one of your victory points, one of your hill cards, and say, no, I want to argue against you, but instead of arguing the thing you thought you were going to argue, you're arguing this instead. So you can play one of the cards from your hand over the phrase I just made to screw me over. Man. Yeah. So someone, we were playing it like this past Friday, and someone played something like, oh man, I can't remember. It was like video games are the cultured man's jazz or something like that. And then they got sabotaged, and the sabotage was they had to argue in favor of the phrase improv is the cultured person's jazz. And I was like, that is wild. You have done a crime. That's like one of the worst. That's one of the worst phrases I think anyone has made in the game. So yeah, and then there's a re-sabotage thing where if I really don't want to do that, I can put down one of my victory points to re-sabotage the sabotage, and that all increases like the pot for the round from 1 card to 2 cards, then to 3 cards, right? So whoever wins the debate gets all of the wagered hill cards, victory points, for the round, in addition to the one that like was initially involved in the phrase.
There's a bit of like war involved in like calling bluffs and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's and the interesting thing is you can only be the devil's advocate once before everyone has been the devil's advocate. Right? Like you can't just be like that person in class who's like raising your hand and you get called on all the time. That's not fair. So like once you're devil's advocate once, you have to wait for everyone else to be. What that means is you got to.
What if someone doesn't want to be devil's advocate? Can they just skip over and someone else can do it?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to ever play your card to say, hey, I want to argue against this, right? But you're kind of giving up on a chance to earn points, for lack of a better term, right? So like there's strategy in there in that like if you see an argument that you think you can argue against, you might want to jump on it because there's no guarantee that like you'll like the next argument that comes up. And like if everyone else is devil's advocate, and like you're the only one who hasn't been devil's advocate yet, and someone plays an argument, you're not forced to argue against it. But like if you don't, you're both giving the other player just a free win, and you're losing a chance to get a point that everyone else had or took, right? So there's a bit of strategy. It's like you got to pick your spot. You can wait, but if you wait too long, you'll lose your chance. And yeah, I don't know. It's fun to kind of see people strategize around that. It isn't really a strategy heavy game. It is very much meant to be played around a table with drinks and, you know, weed if it is legal where you're at.
Hey, I've got my medicinal card. I'm good.
Yeah, there you go. Heck yeah, I love that.
Let's fucking do this, man.
So like, yeah, it's not. We're not talking. We're not talking pandemic. We're not talking planet alert. We're not talking colonizing Mars here. But you know, there's like a little sprinkle of like strategy in there. But yeah, that's generally the way the game works. It is you craft an argument to argue in favor of. Someone does or doesn't sabotage you, and then argues against you, and then everyone else essentially reacts, and the person with the most reactions gets the win for the round. So it's like it's a debate game, but it's also kind of a betting and a wager game, with all of those elements kind of folded in. And I don't know, I think it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
It sounds like a blast. Real quick, I got to give a quick shout out to Vlad Slavin, who just subbed. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the sub. Enjoy the kitty cats and the emotes. Also addressing chat, Duck Duck Noose had a question for you. They are willing to back it right now if they can buy a signed copy. Is that going to be an option on Kickstarter?
Ooh, I haven't done it yet, but like I mean, there's no reason I can't. Oh, let me think about it. I'll have to figure that out with like I'm getting in the weeds a little bit and about stuff literally no one cares about. Like I'd have to deal with that with like the supplier and the way I get shit fulfilled. Like I'm getting it shipped to my house and then essentially taking it to the UPS store. So I don't see a reason why I can't, but UPS is doing the fulfillment. So like I'm not sure.
They'll pay extra for shipping. One copy. Signed.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
One
I see,
copy.
no,
one copy.
I see. I got you. I see. I'm in the chat. I see you. The short answer is I'll just have to get in touch with the UPS store to see if that's like feasible, if they can like let me do that and like make sure they mark that specific box, or like if I add that as a reward tier, those specific boxes for like me to sign and then to ship out to specific.
What are the other reward tiers? What have you got up for offer on the Kickstarters? Tell us what we can purchase with our funds.
Yeah. So the lowest tier is $5, and then you just get the PDFs. It's literally going to be the same PDFs that I send to the printer. It'll have one like the back of the card designs, the like front of the card designs in sheets, just ready for cutting. You'll be able to take them to like UPS store near you, FedEx, KEMCO's, any print shop, and like let them know what kind of card weight you want, all that stuff, and they'll be able to help you out. So yeah, you can do that. Or I mean, you might be able to do it at your local library too for cheaper. Or if you just have a printer and you don't mind it being printer paper, you can do that too. No judgment. But yeah, that'll include the PDFs. You won't get the tokens, which is a bummer, but like it's just emoji tokens. You can draw them yourself. You'll also get the rules. So that's for $5. You'll be able to play the game. You won't be getting the tokens or the trays or the timer, but yeah, you'll be able to play the game. It should be just fine. No rules, just right. Yeah, so that's the $5 tier. Then you move up to the $25 tier, and that's where you get the game. The game, it's in like a nice like it's a pretty like robust box. I was like really happy when I got the sample. It looks great. So like it'll come with, obviously you get the box, you get the rules, you get the hourglass timer for 45 seconds. You'll get I haven't done the math, but it's like each player, and you can play with up to 8 people. Each player will have 16 color-coded emoji tokens to use. So you'll get those, and it'll come with all of the cards you need. I believe, I can check now, there are 100 debate cards, the noun cards, 100... I'm sorry, 250. I wrote 250 cards? Hell yeah. Go me. 250 debate cards, 100 hill cards, and then you get your double-sided action cards to essentially say, like, I want to argue against you, or I want to sabotage you, and then the trays. So that's like the kind of next tier up. Then you have, I'm offering a 2-pack, so you can save on shipping. And that will be $50. So like, yeah. And the shipping cost is a little bit cheaper than if you just bought 2 individual, packs. And then for $500, you can essentially work with me to create a card that will be in the game that everybody gets at the end of the day. That is really cool. Yeah, that's a limited, it's a limited benefit. It's a limited reward. And I obviously like fine print, asterisk, like you're working with me to do it. I get veto power. So like, don't be a jerk, but like, I'll work with you. I won't be a jerk either. Right. Like, yeah, just like, you know, I can't do copyrighted stuff. Right. Like, I don't want
Pokemon.
That. Yeah, probably not. Yeah. Yes. There is an alpha version, a 1-of-1 alpha version of the game that I got printed that does have licensed properties that could not be printed in the final game. But you can always make your own.
Are you going to have blank cards for people to make their own?
I don't think so at this time. However, gotcha. if you don't like one of the cards, just fucking scribble it out, dude. I don't care. White out. Yeah. Do whatever you want. It's your game. I don't care. Not my responsibility.
What do you think of all of this? You're the board game guy. You love playing board game meetups and doing that stuff. Yeah. Does this sound like something you would play at a meetup?
Me? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not talking to me. I'm
asking Pernell. I want to get his thoughts on this one.
Yeah. If you don't like your own game, I'd be very concerned.
Yeah, no, I love
my game. But it kind of sucks, you know.
I just want to get it out the door. Yeah. I can honestly see myself playing this game. I mean, it hits the notes that I like most about games that fit the party chat. I guess the party chat genre of sorts, so to speak, because it may not be a surprise to you that I have a lot of games that do like hit those notes.
Yeah, yeah. It's a crowded field. Like I am and was aware, right? It's a crowded field, and a lot of people have done a really good job making games like this.
And that's one thing I wanted to ask in a general sense, because I feel like, let's say, for example, you went to like PAX Unplugged or something, right? At which point the room's filled with bodies and they're all shopping. Everybody's trying to fence their stuff to all the patrons. and someone came up to you and just flat out said, what would you say is the defining characteristic of your game that other games of this genre just doesn't do, or you feel like it does good enough that I'm like, I want you to buy my game. Screw that guy. Get mine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the elevator pitch, right, is that it's an outlet for the toxicity that you crave on Twitter that doesn't make you feel like you need to take a shower afterwards, right?
That's a good pitch, by the way. That's a very good pitch. I'll tell you one thing that actually came to mind, too, by the way. Because I looked at your Kickstarter page and such, and I saw the reference to the emojis.
Yeah.
I guess, I'm sure people could house rule it on their own accord, but do you think it would make sense to maybe have a rule or a game version where you're trying to push for bonus points based on specific emoji types? Because you were saying, like...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. You were going to say something. I threw you off, sorry.
No. I that's something I thought about. And in the rules, essentially there's like an FAQ at the end where I'm like play how you want. I'm not precious about the rules. I'm gonna I'm trying to think of you can play this game with 2 players pretty easily. You just have to give each other essentially credit for good arguments. Because you're going to be the 2 people in the debate are going to be the 2 people deciding the argument. I am totally okay with people playing it that way. I designed it very specifically that any engagement is good engagement to account for people making bad arguments well. You know what I mean? So let me give you an example. Yeah.
Okay.
I was playing with my brother and my dad an earlier version of the game, and I was arguing something about it was posting is art. And I was arguing, I was tying it back to the Dadaist modernist movement and talking about how absurdism and posting can often go hand in hand. Today's meme culture is very, very similar to the culture that the Dadaists were kind of making art in, and there's this concept of ready-mades. I went into this whole high-minded highbrow thing, and my brother just took my ass to the cleaners by saying Dada, goo goo gaga, Dada, what are you, a baby? And I obviously lost, right?
Wow.
Just absolutely demolished. There was nothing left of me.
It's definitely one of those games also where, and that's the other thing I like about that kind of game. Because like you said earlier, one thing I hate about Cards Against Humanity is that it kind of gives you your jokes. So you'll be sitting there well, I got that Pac-Man card again. I guess I'll be playing that later. It's what you do. But the first game I played of the ilk that lets you make your own humor is a game called Snake Oil. And since I learned about that game, you've played Snake Oil, you know what's up then, yeah. After that, the games of that ilk that I've seeked out are always games where you have to do something for yourself. You can't just play a card and make everyone laugh with random card, because that's not fun. That's turning your brain off.
I'm going to disagree a little bit, because I can be in a mood where I'm not feeling improv-y. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, this is kind of an improv game, even though it is made for it's more like debate / you're on Twitter too much than improv. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely,
there's a place for just I do kind of want to, I want to play a game, but I don't want to, I want to turn my brain off. I'm not, I'm not in that mood. That said, there aren't, in making the game, I was thinking about how there aren't many simple improv games like that. Not that Snake Oil is particularly complicated, but I think of that Jackbox game where you essentially pitch a product to solve a problem. And I really like that game, but it can sometimes just feel overwrought and tedious. And it's no, I just want to say silly stuff, right? The quicker you can get to saying silly stuff, the better. So that's I don't know. That's part of the ethos of like how I created the game the way in which I did, right?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I like the idea behind it, and I also, you probably already said it to him during the chatter, but I also like the idea of how you can do it's like a one-turn option. I remember seeing when you bet a card of yours to be like, I'm going to screw up your argument with saying, now talk against that stupid thing. It's like, well, I don't like that, but I have to talk on it because my points are on the line.
100%.
I can appreciate that 100%.
I found that a lot of people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm here to hear you, man.
I was just going to say, I found that a lot of people like enjoy using the sabotage, not even as a like, screw you, but more as a like, I actually just want to hear you speak on this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I just have a good card in my hand, and I think it will be fun to hear you say this. When I've like played this game, it gets competitive and combative, but it always feels, I don't know, it's like there are always these moments like, oh, whoa, wait, hold up, what? Yeah, actually. And that's really special. It's like, it's funny because it is one of the least, like in playtesting sessions, and this might be based on like who I playtested it with, but I playtested it with like a lot of people, and some were really competitive. It ends up feeling like we're all embodying a character who we're not. We all know that we're all making bad faith arguments. So like the stakes then get a lot lower, if that makes sense. Like I'm not arguing against you. I'm arguing against like a character that you're playing, kind of, right? And I'm playing a character too. I'm also playing a brainwormed 30-something, It kind of like the competitive nature of the game becomes really, really interesting in that way.
We got to make a house rule where every argument has to be done as a pro wrestling promo.
Oh, people have done that. People have straight up done that.
A party of us feel like in your household is less a household rule and people knowing their audience and going, crap, if I want to win against Joe, I have to talk like a wrestler or I'm going to lose.
Listen here, brother.
Yeah,
they're millennials.
Because to me, by the way, that's like one of the biggest traits, one of the best aspects of those games, for example. It's also just, it's not a simple matter of you're going to play and you're just always the best player unless you have a way of, I don't know, I guess almost like a version of code shifting based on your audience, because you got to know who you're playing with and knowing what humor works with what group.
Someone like didn't even make an argument. They were arguing. It was like capitalism is good for coffee or something. I can't remember. It was something like that. But the person who was arguing against it just stood up and sang the union anthem "Solidarity Forever." And
nice.
And it was just so good. And obviously they won, right? But if you're playing with a bunch of cats, if you're playing with a bunch of like people who don't like unions, I don't know if that's the play.
You might be in a buy.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I like this. I like that. I swear, I like that. Like, I mean, so for me, something like that, that's how I sell games like that. How I like even talk about your game. If someone were to say to me, "Hey, I heard about this game you talked about on the show the other day. What makes it good?" It's like, well, here's the thing about that game. Like, how many games do you know of where you get to actually have good faith debates in a humorous manner without hating your friends when it's all said and done?
Yeah. And it's funny because like there's always, every single play session, there's always been one nugget where I'm like, hey, that person actually like said something that made me think about something in a different way, even though they were like being very silly, Like there's always one little deep nugget of truth somewhere in the bad faith argument that like comes up, and that's really interesting too. It's like it's a conversation. It has become a conversation starter a little bit, which I find absolutely wild.
It's also interesting. I feel like your game would do this in a way that's actually something that just came to mind. Something that I think your game would do that a lot of other games like this would not by the nature of their design. If a person's actively being competitive and they're trying to win an actual debate on a topic, it might prompt them to think and say something on the fly that they would have never thought to say if they weren't under the gun for pressure.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, it's like there. I mean, that's the whole game, right? It's about talking points. It's about it's about like making an argument. I mean, there's a way to play this game where you literally just like flip, like you could just flip 3 cards, make a phrase, and then like not even score it. Just be like, we're just going to talk about this for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like not even play this game, just have like a discussion. Like
time out on the game. We got some stuff to talk about.
That's you're dating a board gamer. It's your first day. Like, hey, I got this weird idea. I don't know if you'll like it or not, but your profile said you like board games. I got this game. I want to just tell how good conversation we can have. I'm gonna bring this up with this topic. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Something else I got to talk about quick. Root Beer just subbed for the 58th month. Root Beer, thank you so much for hanging out with us and subbing. Enjoy the emotes. The blank emote is still one of my favorite emotes I've ever made. You know everyone has their emotes on Twitch, right? I made one that's just a transparent image.
A king. That's awesome. That's so good.
It's just a blank emote.
That's so good. Yeah, there it is.
My favorite one.
Sperry Berry Crunch coming through.
Andy coming through.
Awesome.
Thanks for your service, Andy.
I got you, bro.
By the way, Root Beer, you're right. If you're playing, this game is not meant to be played with people who are not in favor of unions. And you can, but you know, I wouldn't.
Might not go too favorably.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know we've been chatting for a while. Does anyone else have any questions about the game they want to ask before we wrap up this conversation?
Oh no, I went down my rabbit hole. It was a good conversation for all mine.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you had some good questions.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Andy, anything?
No, the only thing that I was concerned about was like a 2-player game, you know. But it sounds like you guys answered that pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely not designed for 2, right? Like to make the voting work, you really need 3+. But again, like the most important thing in that box of cards in that like game box is the cards. You know what I mean? Like the rules don't have variants listed, but I will be like publishing updates where I talk about like, you know, variants you can play. And there's no reason you can't make your own house rules and like, you know, just be like, why don't we just do 1v1 rapid fire debates? Yeah, exactly.
Good idea.
Just like, and you know, you would have to essentially you'd have to agree amongst yourselves who won, which is, you know, from a gameplay perspective, not ideal, but from a having fun with your buds perspective, totally fine, in my opinion, right? And it's like, I'm making this game. I don't know. There's no rules. I can do whatever I want. So like, you can do whatever you want too, because it's your game.
If the game does like really well, you know, do you have any plans to like have like add-ons in the future or anything like that?
So
expansions, yeah.
When you say plan, the answer is no. There aren't any active plans right now for something like that. But if the game is successful, like there's no reason I can't, right? It's something I've definitely thought about, something I would really love to do. There are obviously more than 250 nouns to debate over.
Really?
Yeah, I know, right?
Damn.
There's so many words out there. Really makes you think. But yeah, I do have I do have in my mind, like, if this is successful, if there is a demand, if like this is a thing that extends beyond just the first Kickstarter, yeah, man, I'd love to do something like that. I will say, however, I have some stretch goals, and those will be unlocking. They're not expansions because they'll be included in everyone's base game, like in that in like the box you get. But I like called in some favors from some friends. A lot of them are like Chicago local. My buddy Winslow, who discovered the Chicago rat hole and is famous for having a chain link fence in his apartment. And went viral for like doing IG stories about his indoor chain link fence. It rules. He's also a great artist. He's working on a board game as well. He's also like he's a comedian and he's touring this fall. So like he's gonna contribute 5 cards if we hit a stretch goal. Game dev Zalavier Nelson of Strange Scaffold, Zalavier Nelson Jr. of Strange Scaffold agreed to do a 5-card pack if we hit a stretch goal. Maggie May Fish of Nebula and YouTube agreed to do a 5-card pack. And if we hit our highest stretch goal, Jepson's Malort has agreed to do a card pack with us.
Oh, babe, now we're talking.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So like, I hesitate to call those expansions, right? Because they'll be included in the base game. But, it is something I would be open to, something I would like doing. I mean, I'd really love to like put some time and effort into if this is successful, like making a I wouldn't call it an expansion, but like a mod essentially for the base game where like I would spend a bunch of time play testing and figuring out, okay, so what can I add to this game to make it feasible for 2 players to play? Right. In a way that like makes more sense than it does now. You know what I mean? Like, is there like, are there cards? Are there tokens? Are there whatever? Like, are there gizmos that I could put in a box that make the game easier to play for 2? Like, are there other people that I could contact that like, would they want to do an expansion? Are there things that I'm passionate about that I could do an expansion of? But like, what I want to say now is like, since this is my first Kickstarter, I am trying to focus as much as I can on like, what do I got to do now? Like, I can't really be thinking about future stuff until like I hit my goal. I make sure the supplier has everything that they need, and I make sure everyone gets their stuff in the end. You know what I mean? Like we've all backed Kickstarters where people get in over their heads. And,
yep.
Yeah. And like, and being on the other side of that now, like, and I have seen a lot of places where it's easy to fall into that trap, right? Like if you don't consider shipping, if you don't consider, fulfillment, XYZ, whatever, like things get tough. And like, there might be problems I face down the road too. So like, I'm trying to like, that's what I'm trying to focus on is kind of like what's right in front of me. So that the project can be as successful as possible. You know what I mean? Like long answer that could have been a very, very simple. Like, yeah, I'm considering it, but like, no, not right now. That's like pretty back of mind while I'm like trying to get
gotta focus on getting the launch done first, and then
exactly
makes sense.
Yeah, horror acolyte, that's right. Like I don't want to be thinking about like what am I going to do 5-6 months in the future when like I've got a bunch on my plate right now.
Indeed. Well, where can people keep up to date with you, what you're doing in the Kickstarter? Give us all the info.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter is just Die on This Hill. It is called Die on This Hill. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I am Die on This Hill on Twitter. The O in on is a 0. Someone's camping. Die on This Hill.
Yay.
Yay, we love that. You can also follow me personally on Twitter at Sam Greszes. That's Greszes. And I am on Blue Sky at sam.robotsfightingdinosaurs.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on, hanging out with us, chatting with us.
Thank you all for having me and letting me yap.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on. We'll have to get you back on after the Kickstarter's success, and we could talk about what kind of fun plans you have in the future.
I would love that.
Speaking of future plans, last question I got. Any plans for MagFest and showing it off there this year?
No, unfortunately. I would love to. I would. I
get
really
the fuck off the show. I'm done with you.
Oh no!
Does MagFest even have
Later,
a tabletop display section? Like, I know they do tabletop now, but have they started doing like tabletop, like indies of sorts in that regard?
They just have an entire room situated, like an entire giant show floor just for board games. And you can check one out, sit down at a table, play it, or you could walk around and see who's playing and be like, hey, could I join you? Their their board game section is really cool. So if you haven't checked it out, Pernell, that's got to be your go-to at MAG this year.
No, don't get me wrong. I've definitely been in that room, and I love it because it used to be on the second floor, or not. Well, whatever that floor above the escalators is considered. But since they moved it to that one outhouse, aside from the cold walk to get there, I adore it. It was my inquiry was more akin to like, I know that room is like, hey, you want to sit down and play board games? Go ahead and play. But I didn't know if they had the arrangements for people to say, hey, you are a designer of a game, you can show your game off.
Yeah, I don't know. You should contact MagFest for next year at least.
Yeah, yes, for sure. Like right now, I just don't have I just don't have the ability to do the like con thing, but definitely like if and when I do, MagFest will be one of, if not like the first on the list for something like that. I would love to show it off there.
Dope. All right. Well, again, it's been a pleasure having you on. Everyone, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to play some music and be back with more show. Sam, thanks again for coming on and hanging out with us. Do you have any final words to end the interview?
No, that's it. Just like thank all of y'all for having me, and thank everyone in chat for the support. If you like, honestly, the best way to help me out, even if you can't or don't like no hate if this doesn't sound like your thing, but like the best thing you can do to help out is just like if you got a buddy who likes stuff like that, like your buddy that always buys the Jackbox games or has a bunch of Cards Against Humanity expansion packs, like let them know. That is literally the best thing you can do to help me out. So like it would be very much appreciated, even if it's not up your alley.
Or word of mouth.
So, Pernell, have you heard about this great new game?
Oh,
there it is.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, Pernell, have I got a story for you? We're about to do an interview for the game Die on This Hill. Just hit play on this episode and start it over, and you can hear the whole thing.
Don't mind if I do.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. Another thanks to Sam for coming on, chatting about Die on This Hill. That game sounds dope.
I would play it. That does sound like a good game. Good for hanging out, playing games with friends, and also as a good conversation starter.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of cards are in there, and I think I'm gonna back it. $25 seems like a good price for something like that. So I'm gonna back that thing.
That is a good price. That's about a good going price in that area, especially if he's got some of the stuff he's talking about on the episode in regards to like things to come that he might be able to get into it based on from the backer levels. So
yeah, the stretch goals with the extra cards, those would be cool. But you know what else is cool?
Winter.
Reviews are cool, and we got a handful of those to tackle. Should we get into reviews for the night?
Reviews are hot, not cold.
Nope.
No, we're just
going to die on this hill.
We're just going to end the show now. No reviews.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds like more fun.
As long as we all agree.
Good night, everyone.
It was like, I don't agree.
All right, later, man.
It was like, I do not agree. I'm coming back.
Well, I don't know what to do from there.
Co-host has spoken.
Fucking Andy leaves and comes back.
Good night.
All right, let's get to reviews. We got a handful to talk about. First up, Tetris Forever, developed and published by Digital Eclipse, released November 12th. Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, PC for $34.99. Unrivaled after 4 decades, Tetris Forever celebrates the original genre-inspiring puzzle game that escaped from behind the Iron Curtain onto the world stage and into our cultural consciousness. Pernell, what is going on in Tetris Forever?
Well, I'm going to get this out the way right now, because between the Nintendo Direct I saw and just by virtue of the name of the game, people were probably thinking what I was originally thinking too. This is not a Tetris collection. If you buy this game or intend to buy this game thinking that as a Tetris collection, stop it right now, because you're going to be disappointed. Now, with that out the way, this is a pretty cool product actually in what it actually intends to be. Tetris Forever can best be described as an I don't want to call it an interactive museum, but video / pictorial museum of conveying the history of the Tetris property. Everywhere from them describing the invention of the polyomino term, which I learned that from this game, and I took a picture of it because it's going to come up in a lot of board games in the future. But in addition to that, just interviews with Alexei Pajitnov, who is the inventor of Tetris. If you were playing Tetris back when the Game Boy came out, you heard his name quite a bit. But unfortunately,
NES
in the modern day, oh yeah, and the NES too. But in the later games, all that kind of fell off and it just kind of became Tetris. But back then, people gave him lots of credit for what he did, and they acknowledged it when they talked about the game. So it's kind of good that he's able to give his impression of the game in this video by way of old interviews that they took of him and such. There's videos of that. There's like dialogue describing the history of the property, how it got from Russia to America, the different versions of Tetris, and it's done by way of accessing 5 different chapters, and each chapter focuses on a different aspect of Tetris's history. And when you select one of the chapters, it kind of has like a sort of node system where you can travel from left to right with the occasional offshoot node that goes further into specific topics. But you just kind of go from left to right, each representing a different event, usually chronologically ordered. And you learn by way of watching a video or reading some text or looking at some detailed screenshots that talk about a specific aspect of the Tetris's history. Just a general example, they describe the original computer that Alexei Pajitnov used to design Tetris. Like the very first version of the game was designed on an Electronica 60, which again, before this game, I had never heard of that. So there you go. It's very cool to go through and watch it. There's a lot of information here. This is not a small thing. Like, I mean, I can easily say there's at least an hour of commentary on this thing. There's a lot going on. And whether or not you care about that, you still have access to a bunch of Tetris games to play. Now, I made sure to convey earlier, again, that this is not a Tetris collection. Do not come here for that. A lot of the hotter Tetris properties are not on this game. In fact, a number of these are actually almost like copies of the same game, like Super Bombless, but different versions of Super Bombless. But my best guess is that they included specific games because they felt they hit a very interesting point in the game's history, whether it was like, porting it from a less capable system to a better system, or a game that has a bunch of different modes in it that kind of expand on the Tetris property and giving Tetris players new things to experience. There are a number of games in this are even completely in Japanese because they are just straight up, here's the ROM of Tetris Battle Gaiden from the Super Famicom. And you just boot it up and play it. And each of these games, in a lot of cases, have like little different rules to them. If you pick the game, for example, it'll tell you straight up, this is what this game is. This is when it released on what console, and it'll tell you what features exist within the game. There's a feature in Super Tetris 3 that I tried to play and sucked at for high holy hell called Magicless, which involves every time you rotate the piece, you're sliding the Tetris piece down a sliding scale of colors, and you're trying to drop the pieces down at the right color type to get lines of that color type. And it is maddening. It is nuts. But again, it is a version of the game that's never come out in America, so you can experience it here. Same with like Sparkless and apparently Famless. And there's like a bunch of things like that. There's a total of 18 different games here, some of which are, again, like different versions. Like there's like 3 versions of Hatris in this thing, for example. A game that I had never played. I knew about it because of Nintendo Power, but never played it. And it was kind of nice to just boot up and say, I can finally see what the hell Hatris is all about. Never even booted up on an emulator for whatever reason, but I experienced it here. Now, something that's important to mention, though, is there is one original version of Tetris that they made just for this game. And that game is called Tetris Time Warp. It's hard to say how I feel about the game because it's not a bad game by any means. It's more like what this does that makes it special is kind of a gimmick. But then again, what isn't when you're trying to do more with a tried and true formula? No. In the case of Tetris Time Warp, you're playing basic Tetris. Well, correct, rephrase that. Modern day basic Tetris, meaning you have the hold piece option and stuff like that. And you're trying to make lines, yada, yada, yada. However, every once in a while, a special type of Tetris piece will come down where it can fit any of the number of the tetraminos that exist in the game, but it will kind of flash between different visual images. Once you place that piece, it becomes solidly that style of piece. And when you make a line that includes a portion of that, you go back to the Tetris game that Tetris piece resembled. So let's say, for example, it looks like a bunch of brackets, like an old computer style, like something like old computer brackets. And you complete it. You go back to the 1984 game. And the way it does it, I guess it's easy to say if you've played Puyo Puyo Tetris is the easiest way to describe it. Because in Puyo Puyo Tetris, they had that mode where it would set you up with a predefined board layout. And you're trying to clear things as efficiently as possible in a limited amount of time. And if you're able to do it, one of two things can happen. Either A, you can quote unquote clear the error and exit out back to your original board and you'll get bonus points. Another thing that will happen is you'll clear that out. The board will flip to another future version of Tetris, like the Game Boy version of Tetris from 1988. And then now you're playing that. And then it might go to, again, a number of different versions of Tetris. And you're playing through all these, eventually going back to your primary board and just scoring points by doing as well as you can during the air quotes time warp. This is also a 4-player game, so you can do it with 3 of your best friends or 3 of your worst enemies. It doesn't matter. Why do you let your enemies into your house? I have no idea. But you can still do that. The game is fun. I enjoyed it. I was playing it even right before this episode and got a pretty decent high score. Around like level 10 or 11, pieces start getting pretty freaking redonkulous. But it does have that thing that some Tetris games do where you can kind of flip the piece and kind of get over things sometimes. But it does get harder and harder to do that as the game gets higher in difficulty and level. I honestly believe that this game does what it set out to do, and it does it very, very well. I appreciate that it gave that one extra new version of Tetris, put that in here just to say, hey, it's not all rehashed. There's some new stuff in here, but I don't even think it needed it. It just is a bonus because
technically there's 2 new games. The Electronica 60 version is a recreation of that, so it's technically a new version, but it still even plays kind of like a more modern one where when the piece hits the bottom, you could still move it.
I will tell you this, though. You say that, but whenever the Electronica 60 comes up in Tetris Time Warp, that's the one where I'm like, oh, God, no, not that one.
Yeah, because you can't hold a direction for the piece to move. You got to hit it every single time to move left and right. Oh, that's rough.
Even like even as a recreation, it is still very much a product of its time. And you're I love this from a historical aspect, this electronica version, but I'm not going to just sit here and play. The one thing I learned about this game, I learned about Tetris from this museum that I didn't even know about. A lot of the early versions of Tetris, you didn't even get points for clearing lines. You got points just for speed dropping the pieces. So it was less about efficiency, more just like get it done fast. And one more thing I should mention, I totally forgot. Even though I said there's like a bunch of Tetris games, there's also Go in here because they refer to that in the museum pieces as one of the like inspirations for the design of Tetris and the shapes that they use in Tetris. So it was pretty interesting that he's like, here, have a version of Go for the Go for the Famicom. But I like Go, so that's another bonus.
I do have a pretty gnarly complaint about the game.
I'm going to take a guess. Is it the controls? Because sometimes they have the Japanese controls and stuff.
No, it's the achievements. They are such a letdown. You only get achievements for playing Electronica 60 and Tetris Time Warp. You don't get anything for any of the other games. You don't get anything for watching any of the documentary footage or going through the timelines. It's just for playing those two games. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I think with what you said, 18 games in there, they could have spread out the achievements a lot more. They could have put a lot more in there. I think that's a wasted opportunity. They had a lot of ground to cover with achievements. And that's something that they've been doing a lot with these digital Eclipse collections is the achievements are just lackluster. And that's my only...
Part of me wants to say that for this case, by your description, it sounds like they just put the achievements into the air quotes new material in the game.
Yeah, but like put it on the whole game, not just the two new things. I don't know. I'm only missing two achievements. One is to get the Tetris in the Game Boy version, and the other is to get a T-spin triple because I suck at T-spins, and I'm never gonna get that one. I got all the other achievements though. All the score ones.
Where you slam it into the wall, basically.
The T-spin is where you use the T-piece and you twist it into an impossible to get hole, and you get a triple clear with it. And I can do doubles fairly okay, but a triple, I cannot do triples. I'm terrible at T-spins.
Triple sounds hard to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but the game clock's in at $34.99. What are your thoughts on Tetris Forever?
I think it's an easy buy recommendation. Again, it knows its audience, and you should know your own interests as well. But if you're in that audience pool, which that's the group I'm talking to, this is an easy recommendation because it's an awesome product.
I can agree with that. I wish the price was a little cheaper, but I'm guessing getting all those Tetris variants, as well as all the interview footage and all the work that they did with that, adds to the cost. But it's still worth picking up if you're a Tetris fan.
About, and just to get out the way, just the logical thing, I've seen a lot of people complain about why doesn't it have like Tetris DS? It's the greatest Tetris game. It's like, I mean, the game was rife with Nintendo property, licenses and properties. I think it's safe to say that wasn't going to be on here.
Yeah. So, all right, next game, Up to Par, developed and published by It's Anecdotal, released October 14th on Steam for $19.99. Up to Par is a mini golf game with roguelite elements. Stay under par or you're out. Play through procedural levels, send your spare shots to unlock abilities, and push your golf game to the limit across unique environments. Andy, tell us about your time with Up to Par.
So, like you just said, Up to Par is a mini golf game featuring procedural levels and some roguelike elements. At each level, you're given 3 shots to make it in the hole across the course, consisting of 6 levels in total. Making it in less than 3 carries the next shot over till the end of the course, where you'll visit the pro shop and use those extra balls as a type of currency. You'll first start out by unlocking items in the shop, such as the gimme, in which your ball will go in if it's close to the hole. The shot preview, where as it describes, you can see where your shot will go, along with many others as well. All of these will help you out along the next course or courses in the future. If you decide to go forward relying purely on skill, you can always buy more shots for the coming round with the extra balls that you kind of banked. And if you don't want to use them, you can always bank them for after the next course. As you continue, you'll play. You'll also unlock new challenges and courses depending on how many holes you've played through. Things like the magnet, a windmill, water features. More challenging courses are unlocked as well. And as honestly, as calming as names are, like Soothing Meadows or Tranquil Farm, they're nothing close to Tranquil. Which is pretty good. A lot of interesting approaches to playing where generally the more you play, the easier the game gets. Not really the other way around, which I found kind of interesting. Normally you play a roguelike game like this, and you're given more opportunities. This one kind of does the opposite and throws more challenges your way. Up to Par also features multiplayer modes, versus co-op, network play, and it also has weekly challenges to kind of keep you coming back for more too. Versus mode is pretty fun if you're going for bragging rights, but me and the buds were mostly playing the co-op mode, where you combine shots for a total of 6 extra shots per hole instead of the 3 you normally get. Chatting with my buddy Mr. Duck Duck Noose, who I've been playing this game a lot with, we really felt an improvement to the starting position of the ball in versus mode would have been a lot better, as to not give like one player an advantage. Generally, in any of the multiplayer modes, the balls are all kind of in random spots in the starting area too. So occasionally that's a little bit difficult, especially if you're going head to head. The art style is really nice, mimicking like kind of a fabric or like wood feel, depending on the levels. Grass or like kind of a tranquil lake. It's just got like a simple look, and it's kind of a simple game. It doesn't go over the top and try to be more than what it is. There's nothing really flashy, no wild fonts or color schemes. It's just everything about the game is like set up really professionally, really nice, really clean. I don't know how to describe it any other way. It's just a nice looking game too. I noticed a few little networking issues while we were playing online, but nothing really game breaking. And I might have talked to you about it before, but the developers are really like quick to respond if anything does come up. I had a little issue when I first started playing the game, and they were right on top of it. I think they emailed me back within like 2 hours or something, and helped me out too. So honestly, creating the only like improvement or thing I would like to see like in the future too would be like maybe creating some custom matches. But overall, it's really solid and well put together title. I had a really good time with this one. I actually ended up. I know you're going to ask me about pricing too here in a second, but I to jump the gun a little bit, I ended up buying it for a couple of friends of mine just to play it because. Yeah, so I spent enough on the game a couple of times. So,
well, I guess we know your verdict. Then it's $20. Would you buy it?
I would. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I bought it for a couple of friends. I like I said, I had a hard time really putting this one like into words. Like, there's nothing over the top. There's nothing super crazy that's jumping out at you. It's not a game that you're going to jump into and there's going to be explosions or anything like that. It's just a simple mini golf game, but it's good, it's well developed, and it's just a solid, fun time. I liked it a lot.
Duck Duck News says everyone should get this game, and they bought it for a few friends too. It's very well made. So yeah. There you have it. 2 people in agreement, worth getting.
I was playing it right before we started the show too, so
nice. I got to get this one. It looks really fun.
Yeah, get it. We'll all play together.
Cool. All right, next up, IREM Collection Volume 2, developed by IREM and Tozai Games, published by ININ Games, released November 14th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5 for $24.99. Brace yourselves, ININ is coming in guns blazing for the second volume of IREM Arcade Classics, with iconic IREM titles like Air Duel, Gunforce, and Gunforce 2. This is one action-packed collection you can't miss. Chris, tell us about IREM Collection Volume 2.
Okay, so I actually can't remember if I even reviewed Volume 1, but I have it. the company ININ put out a nice compilation of 3 of IREM's, like, kind of some of their shmups that aren't R-Type. That is to say, Image Fight 1 and 2, and a game called X Multiply, which is a weird one. This time around, they are, instead of fighting images, they are forcing guns. And so they have included 2 classic run-and-gun games this time, along with a shmup, because you can't not have a shmup. So yeah, these are collections that are basically, we've got 2 arcade ports here. The Gunforce 1 and Gunforce 2, which is also called Geostorm in Japan. So if you've ever heard that name, that's what that means. They are both provided in both the world and Japanese configurations. And then there's also the Super Nintendo port of Gunforce, which, just came out as Gunforce. But they provide the Japanese and Super Famicom and Super Nintendo version of that game, and then also the Japan only, but it doesn't matter because it's all in English anyway. It's a vertical shmup called Air Duel, which is pretty interesting. So I'm just gonna briefly talk about each game a little bit just to see if you're interested in them. So Gunforce 1 it very much feels like we have Contra 3 at home, but it predates Contra 3 by a little bit. It was 1992, so somewhat early. Just basically like you're a soldier who is running around stages and beating guys, and of course one shot in your direction has the potential to kill you. The cool thing about this game is that if you come across an enemy's vehicle, if you come across a gun turret or something like that, you can push the button and take it over, and therefore defeat waves of enemies with their own weaponry. In the arcade version, in the very first stage, you actually get to take over a whole ass helicopter.
Ooh.
And fly a combat helicopter around the stage until it blows up. Very nice indeed. I'm gonna say I did beat the Super Nintendo version. Actually, I didn't beat the arcade version, but I did confirm that it's just a much fancier version of what I played. So I did play Gunforce a little bit back before it was on this collection, because it is like I said, a Super Nintendo game. And yeah, that one is pretty cool. Like I said, the arcade version I think is a little bit more preferable, but yeah, it's a pretty good one. Also, its subtitle is Battle Fire Engulf Terror Island, which
it's a good title.
I feel that. Yeah, that sounds like that should be our next national anthem. So anyways, then we get to Gunforce 2. Now, this is I'm going to consider this the crowning shining gem of this particular collection, because Gunforce 2 took what was cool about Gunforce and just exploded it in every direction, which is of course what this game does. This is a game that Gunforce 1, like I said, it's a run and gun like Contra. It's basically, you don't want to get hit by the guns. You want to shoot your guns into people. Gunforce 2 starts off with it starts off with the title coming out of a hole that has been blown into the earth, which is great. But after that, it's your character jumps onto a moving train with 2 guns blazing, and your job is to not only blow up the zillions of enemies that are coming at you constantly, but also the train itself while you're on it. It also features a bonus game of not a bonus game, but a kind of so if you remember the NES game and an arcade game, Guerrilla War, it's that game was it was a run and gun, but the secondary task is that you had to rescue hostages and not shoot them. If you shot them, you lost points, which was very sad. In this game, there is a copy pasted like hot girl in like a red dress that you rescue by the hundreds. Like for bonus points. She cannot be shot. You could miss her, and that will be very sad. Because sometimes she's hidden in like a crate or something like that. But yeah, if you run across like if you cut the ropes basically and then like rescue her, then she does a little dance, and then that's a bonus. And later they show back, a couple of them show back up in the game in a support role, and it's actually very cool. But yeah, it's Gun Force 2 is like where, like I said, you have two guns and they can be swapped out for different guns that you pick up along the way. The first game also had the same thing with gun upgrades and such with limited ammo. And then of course you had unlimited ammo for your original gun. But yeah, all of these guns are just like, clobbering time. It's like they cover the screen, they blow up everything. Stuff's just coming at you at a constant tick. The game's a lot more animated. It'll actually remind you a little bit of like Metal Slug if it was taking itself seriously, but also kind of not. Because it's still kind of silly. But yeah, it's way cool. The only weird thing about it, I beat this one. When you get to the end of stage 5, it just loops you back around to stage 1 with no like the end or anything like that. So I assume that this might be a classic move that IREM likes to pull, which is they make you beat the game twice before you get any kind of like acknowledgement,
Nah.
But it's whatever. It is so fun that you're gonna this is the one that you're gonna really want to pick this up to play. Obviously there's no home port of this. It's just the arcade version. Like I said, you can just either choose Gun Force 2 or Geostorm. Which is just the same game with a different title. And then yeah, like I said, the third or fifth game, or actually seventh game in the collection, depending on how you want to count these, is like I said, Air Duel. This is a very simple vertical shooter that it's the only game where you can do Tate mode, because it is a vertical shooter like alignment, like so it's going to take up 1/3 of the screen.
It takes up 1/3 of my screen. Alerts for when we get subs, like from Jordan for his 11th month. Thank you, Jordan, for your sub and your support.
Amazing.
I try to find the worst segues I can.
Yeah, no,
Jordan, appreciate the support. Appreciate you being here and hanging out. Enjoy the emotes and the kitty cats.
Hooray.
Hooray.
Anyways, so yeah, Air Duel. This one was like a much earlier game. It's like 1990, and like I said, it's a vertical scroller. It's pretty cool. It has the gimmick of you choose. Well, for one, it's 1 or 2 player, and each player chooses whether they want an airplane or a helicopter. An airplane has a straightforward shot that can kind of spread out a little bit as you pick up power ups. A helicopter will aim in the direction that you're moving, so it's kind of like the it's got the garden hose effect of like you're spraying your shot like back and forth while you're moving around, and it's also smaller, so dodging bullets is a little easier. It's not like this one isn't like a it's not the shining jewel of the game, but that's okay because it's pretty solid. I like it. And like I said, it does have like your Tate mode and things like that. So anyways, about the whole collection, or the collection on a whole, is that every game comes with the same either casual or classic mode. Casual mode gives you things like rewind functionality, which is an instantaneous just moving back and undoing your moves in real time just by holding down the L button or whatever button you decide to assign. And it also gives you like different I don't know. It's like, yeah, it just basically, mostly it's giving you the rewind and like all of the different QOL that goes along with these kind of games nowadays. And cheats, of course. Invincibility, infinite lives, whatever you need to just get through the game, of course. Then, like I said, the arcade mode will like give you the actual arcade experience. You do have dip switch control. All the available options of a solid arcade port, which is great. And let's see, trying to think if there's anything I'm missing here. Oh yeah, online rankings, of course, is what you get. You also have auto fire available on everything. You can actually set, at least in the Gun Force games, I don't remember if you can set this for Air Duel, but you can set, you of course have a jump button and a shoot button, but you can assign other buttons to be different shoot buttons at different levels of auto fire. So you can do 15 inputs per second. You can also do 15 inputs per second frame switched. That is to say, they will shoot on the opposite frame that they would normally. Apparently, this is important somehow. And then, of course, you can do a 30 inputs per second input, and other frame input as well. So pretty precise there. The only thing that's really kind of lacking in these, and these are also pretty much lacking in the original or the Volume 1 collection as well, there's not a whole lot of there's barely even descriptions of the games, you don't really get a lot of documentation or arcade flyers or the kind of cool stuff that you would normally want to take a look at. You can view the credits and licenses, and that's about it. And of course there's video options too. Display, you can do 4:3 pixel perfect stretch, toggle wallpaper, choose a shader. One of the shaders you can choose is Vengeful CRT, which just makes it look like a really terrible CRT screen, which is kind of great. So yeah, those are all there. And of course, each one of those has their own settings. I chose none of them. I never put shaders on my games. And then the scale filter, you can have the pixels a little extra crispy if you like. And I did set it that way. And that was perfectly enjoyable to me.
Cool. Well, it sounds like the game as a whole bundle is enjoyable to you as well.
Yeah.
It clocks in at $24.99. Comes out on Thursday. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, $24.99. I would say this one's, like I said, the first set was strictly shmups. So it's very much, I could only recommend it to fans of that particular genre. This one is much more focused on run and gun. But I would say that between Gun Force and Gun Force 2, there's enough variety there that you'll find two really cool games in that kind of genre in here. They're very different from each other, so that's actually a pretty good thing. Like I said, Gun Force 2 kind of makes it worth the price of admission just by itself. And like I said, Air Duel is a good. It almost feels like a bonus, but I know it's a full game. But just the fact that it's a shmup here and what it essentially amounts to 6 different or 6 versions of Gun Force essentially does make it feel like it's added in. But yeah, I would say that this is worth picking up along with the first one. If you are a fan of IREM, but you only have the basics at your disposal, these are good games that, like I said, it was fun to give them a spin. I'm going to say for arcade fans and fans of running guns and somewhat fans of shmups, then I'm going to give it a buy it. There's nothing to really complain about here.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Passageway of the Ancients, developed and published by Passageway Games, released October 16th on Steam for $19.99. Inspired by classic CRPGs from the 90s and early 2000s, Passageway of the Ancients transports players to the world of Arion, the galaxy's sole remaining magical planet, where they explore the city of Ithgar to solve their parents' murder. Andy, what is going on in Passageway of the Ancients?
I feel like you keep taking the intro sentence or two from my reviews every time.
I might. Do you take it from Steam? Because that's where I take it.
I reword some of it, yeah. If I'm being honest. No, so in this game, you'll play as a dragonkint, part shapeshifter, part angelic being, part dragon, kind of like man, bear, pig. You'll have to, however, keep your true identity secret, as dragonkints are ruthlessly persisted in this world. So starting off, you'll be able to create a custom character, choosing between human, elf, and dwarf, along with your class type of cleric, paladin, mage, sentinel, or rogue. There's some very in-depth customizable options for your character, but as we know from my previous reviews, I usually make my characters like the same bearded animal beast. So
Same.
yeah, I mean, you can go pretty in-depth. I know Aki's really in that too. So Aki, if you're looking for some good character customizations, here you go. But I ended up testing some of the extra features out, and Joe actually sent you a picture of what one of the characters I came up with looked like. What did you think of this guy?
I was like, what the hell was I looking at? It's just so hairy.
Yeah. So
what filthy degeneracy were you sent? Because I don't.
I'll send it to you, Aki.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was about to say, was this posted in the Discord or what?
No, I just sent it to Joe. But yeah, I have Joe send it over
just
to you.
so beefy, and I don't know what the hell's going on with it.
I ended up not using that one. I was just playing around with stuff. But that one I just turned everything up. Everything that you could. It was like make him skinny, make him fat.
Throw it in the Discord general so everyone can see it.
Muscly girth, just with anything and everything. I just shader all the way up. But I don't know. A lot of times, like your characters are covered in armor or something, so I never really see the need for like super intense body modifications like that. But anyway, it's there. So if you want to do it, you can do it. Anyway, then you'll begin the gameplay with a tutorial that kind of takes you through some of the opening story, the main aspects that you'll deal with in the game. I really got to hand it to the developer for like really going in depth on some of the examples that they include, even like cutscenes to show off the examples too. I myself am more of a play and figure it out kind of gamer, so. Luckily, if you're like that too, there's always a handy guide you can kind of come back to and reference certain things, and pick up stuff that you might have missed. It'll take you through things like managing your party, picking locks, battling monsters, and even solving runic puzzles. But honestly, aside from running around, collecting loot, and uncovering more of the story, those things I just mentioned are actually kind of the main things you'll be doing in the game. A few interesting features were presented, including a pause in real-time battle system, where you're given a chance to kind of prepare your character or team for the upcoming skirmish. I also enjoyed the runic puzzles. I thought those were pretty clever. You're given a like part of a puzzle or a clue in order to complete a word or phrase to unlock a chest or passageway forward. Think kind of like if Wordle gave you a clue, and then you knew which letters were in. So I thought those were kind of neat, but nothing super extreme. But that's kind of, you'll be dealing with those like quite a bit in this game too. The game does have kind of your typical play style that you would find in an RPG. Plenty of loot to discover, levels to gain, missions to complete, a good storyline. It had some fairly linear gameplay, and honestly, I felt like the story was like way beyond my comprehension. References to people and places and mythic stones and things that I just couldn't follow, and there wasn't really like a backstory on a lot of things as well. So I ended up doing some research, and I actually learned that the story references and is based on, from what I understood, an unpublished fantasy novel by one of the developers. So I found that kind of interesting. I would like to read it, because I'm really into the fantasy stories, but I just couldn't track, it being in the game and trying to uncover what was going on and also get little tidbits from a mythical world. So that side just didn't really resonate with me. I also encountered a few performance issues, crashes with the game. Characters would freeze, mid animation sequences, get trapped in areas, or just like completely just not do what I wanted them to do, which kind of sucked. I try not to like bash on games too much, but I ranted to a couple friends of mine, about it. But there were just like so many times I would die or get stuck or characters just wouldn't attack. There was a lot of things that felt very broken in the game. There were hotkeys that just wouldn't work. And anytime something like that would happen, it would just like kind of really bog down the enjoyability factor.
No.
So I mean, overall, there wasn't like an aspect to the game that like really pulled me in. I mean, it's like a nod to the 90s and early 2000s CRPGs. So maybe I'm just not the like target audience for a game like this. I mean, I think if this game was like maybe created 30 years ago and released, like maybe it would kind of have some be a little bit more competition, I guess.
Yeah,
but it
feels like some games are just too retro for their own good.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I was feeling. Like I said, I don't like to just like bash games, but it definitely felt like they were going for retro in all aspects of it. I mean, I was like getting trapped behind doors, or like just like between little clunky things and some of the aspects to it. It felt retro in a bad way. And I know you can make a good retro game that performs really well, with updated, gameplay and everything like that too. So I don't know. It's just not what I thought.
Well, it clocks in at $20. What is your verdict on Passageway of the Ancients?
I'm not for it. And like I said, it maybe it's just
hold off on this one.
Say what?
Hold off on this one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, maybe it's just like not my style of game, or not my pitch, but I just could not get into it. I didn't feel like it was developed super well. So yeah, don't get it.
All right. Well, Andy, that is it for you. You gonna stick around, or are you heading out?
I'm gonna head out. I gotta get some dinner in me.
All righty. Sorry this one went so long.
No, it's good, man. I enjoy the show always. I'm good.
Cool. Well, you have yourself a wonderful night. And do you have any final words?
No, I hope you guys all have a wonderful night as well. Back the game that was pitched to us tonight. That sounds pretty fun. What was it called? Die on this hill.
Die on that hill?
I'd die on that hill. I would. Would you?
Yeah. Well, I've grown fond of living, so I'm not dying on any hill.
I don't know if I would die for the game, but I would definitely play it if it was presented to me, for sure. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night.
Cool. Have a good one, Andy.
Night, good sir.
All right. Later, dudes.
Later. Next game is SlavicPunk Oldtimer, developed by Red Square Games, published by Gaming Factory, released November 6th on Xbox One, Series X and S, PS4, PS5 for $17.99. This game is an isometric shooter. The story revolves around Giannis, a private investigator with a troubled past trying to solve the case of stolen data while fighting his inner demons, urban gangs, and an omnipotent corporation responsible for the decay of the city he once used to call his own. Pernell, what's going on with Giannis and SlavicPunk Oldtimer? I can't talk.
That's okay. Because fun fact is, a lot of times if they're talking in this game, you won't know what they're saying either. I'll get into that in a minute. So the case of SlavicPunk is I'm going to go with your description because honestly, you just explain more of the narrative tonight than I'll be able to. But what I can go on to is the detail of the actual gameplay loop. The game takes place in the city of Yannick City. That city itself is a fairly sprawling environment. You can kind of go into a multitude of locations, though the narrative only pushes forward when you go to specific locations that are determined or that are deemed necessary by the plot. So it'll say like go to the trash district or something like that, and you'll just kind of run towards it. Sometimes you'll be able to see the cursor letting you know where it is. Other times, if you've gone too far from the cursor, you just kind of have to figure out where you're going to get there. But then once you get there, the cursor will move to the next point. And you'll keep doing that until eventually you might find yourself leaving the main city area to go to a more, specifically constructed area, location. At which point it's kind of a fairly linear affair where you're kind of going from the beginning to the end, progressing onward. During these engagements, you are exploring an environment, and there are enemies that are typically posted up to impede your progress. They come in a multitude of forms, but they're usually guys with guns, sometimes bigger guys with bigger guns. But for the most part, it's usually human characters. I guess I'm kind of grateful. I'm used to finding a lot of mutants, and I'm kind of glad to not have to deal with that for a little bit. But usually these kinds of people. And when that happens, it's pretty much go time. And you can do so by engaging them either by attacking them with a knife, by pressing the X button. Unless you're stealth killing guys, though, you'll almost never want to do that because that's a fool's errand and you're going to take a lot of damage. So just don't do that. And then the other way you're going to kill them is by blasting their brains out using guns. Early on, you get a pistol, but by the end of the game, you'll have about a good total of 5 guns or so, like a shotgun or a rifle. And they have different, firing capacities, magazine sizes, and the like. So as you defeat enemies, you will collect ammo to replenish your ammo loads and stuff, but otherwise you might be able to buy ammo from a shop. I'll talk about the shop in a minute as well, but you'll pretty much never, at least in my experience, I never had a scenario where I'm hurting for bullets, because you kill guys, get more bullets. You sometimes will get health drops from them too, which will keep you kind of juiced up for health, et cetera, et cetera. The usual spiel. As you're exploring these environments, you'll also occasionally come across treasure chests. Treasure chests can include additional ammo or health packs. There's also a stim pack item in the game that you can use to slow down time and get yourself better, firing ranges and stuff. But to be perfectly honest, I almost never used it. Every time I tried to, the game seemed to go slower than I wanted it to. So I was like, so I just kind of barely used it. Now, with that said, though, there is one other mechanic that the game, I'll tell you about why in a minute, but I don't think it really explained it very well. But it's something called battle hacking. I was kind of not understanding what it was for a long time, but then when it eventually clicked for me of my own accord, I came to appreciate it. And what battle hacking is if you're in a skirmish with enemies, again, top-down battle environment, so you're running around a map and enemies are chasing you, you can press in the right thumbstick to bring up sort of freeze frame or very slow bullet time mode, where you can see where you are, and if there's enemies nearby, you can see where they are. They're highlighted in red, and they also have, I guess, like a sort of shield around them or an aura around them. You can scroll over to them by using the right trigger or left trigger, more so the right trigger, to progress towards them. And then you can do what's called a battle hack. So long as you have battery power in your battery gauge, you can input a series of button presses to either do damage to the enemy from a distance. So basically, like, I just hack to the enemy for damage. It's a weird thing, but cyberpunk, brains. So you can either do damage to them or you can input it to stagger them. In the case of certain enemies, you will want to use that stagger because the damage isn't enough to kill them, and it takes battery just to even do that. Whereas by staggering them, they'll be stunned for a little while. You can kind of dash over to the guy using either your roll, which is a roll ability that takes a little bit of stamina, or a hyper dash that takes a lot, but it makes you invincible in the process. Get over to them and just unload bullets on them to high holy hell because, again, they're completely vulnerable because they're stunned or staggered. So the weird things I have gripe with about this game, and I say this knowing that between the time I was prepared to do this review and the time I actually started doing it, I've softened up on it a bit, but still there are heavy criticisms that I believe could be fixed in the patch. One, so you'll go into a room sometimes, like you'll be exploring an environment, and you'll be able to typically see enemies walking around. The game did a good job of choreographing when enemies are kind of around for you. Like you have red auras, they do their pacing. So you kind of can decide how you want to engage the opposition because, they're on the screen. You can see them. But this game has a bad habit of letting you walk into a space. No one's there. And then suddenly it goes into battle mode and enemies just pop out of nowhere. Like they just appear magically and start spraying you like crazy. Now, I'm not one that shies away from difficult games or challenge, but it just seems odd to me that I have a game where I go from having enemies pacing about to enemies literally appearing out of thin air. Sometimes killing a guy and another enemy appears right over top of where I'm at. Like, how did he even get here? Did he walk out the bathroom in the floor? Because I haven't seen him. He's just here now. And it drives you nuts because you will get wrecked in this situation quite a few times. Less so when you're outside because you get more of an ability to kind of backtrack and hide places. But indoors, they have a habit of like locking the door behind you too. So you're caught unaware. You don't know the lay of the area you're in, and now you're getting bombarded by random assailants who just appeared out of thin air. Bad move. The next thing is not as heavy. The checkpoint system. Depending on where you're at, you can't save this game. At least if you can, I didn't see it. The game auto saves instead. And if you die, the game lets you either restart the entire area you were in, if you're in a dungeon area or a side level, or you can load your last checkpoint. The last checkpoint, however, can sometimes be 1 or 2 skirmishes back from where you died at, which is an annoyance because, again, you have no control over your checkpoint. It's whatever the game decides is a worthy checkpoint. It's like Ray Zero without all the blood. So it would be nice if I could either save myself or just, I don't know, be more generous with the checkpoints. And quite possibly, okay, then, and another thing, though, this is one of the things I've softened up on as I played the game more. The guns you get can be upgraded. The way you get upgrades is not quite clear to me. Or rather, it wasn't quite clear to me. I saw a little bit of a pop-up that just kind of mentioned, you can upgrade at workbenches and, do whatever. And workbenches exist in dungeons and stuff, and you can use the workbenches to kind of slot in modifiers for your weapons. However, you can't buy the modifiers at the workbench. You have to buy the modifiers at a store. And for what I saw, the game didn't tell me where to go get these weapons. They didn't tell me about the stores, but it sure as heck showed me the workbench. So I sat here wondering how the heck I'm supposed to upgrade my guns. It took me going to the Steam discussions board where one person asked about it, and I think the developer came on and said, or not the developers, like one of the people was like, you go to a place that looks like Chinatown, there's 3 shops that let you buy parts for your gun. But it wasn't really explained to me at any point in the game. It was just, okay, once I learned about that, when I left that dungeon, I personally went out of my way to find what looked like Chinatown and find these 3 stores and buy the stuff. 2 of which weren't even one that particularly stood out. It was like, I'm just going to hump everything until I see a green text box that says buy, which is what I did. And then beyond that, there's 2 more things. So I'm not going to go hard to the paint on this. The next thing is, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something I did. I have no idea. But there were times when they would give you tutorial pop-up boxes in the center right side of the screen, but they would disappear before I even got a chance to read them. And I would have to squint to read them. I'm like, okay, what's that thing? Oh, it's gone. I don't know what they were trying to tell me. Can't bring it back up. There's no pause, old tutorial messages screen or nothing. So I just had to imagine what they were trying to teach me. So that was an annoyance. So maybe make it so that give me time to read the tutorial pop-ups if you're going to have them in the game. And the last, that thing that I really believe needs to get updated is the text size, the font size. I know I'm an old ass man. I get it. I'm going to get that out the way now.
Hey, so am I, man.
Yeah, but with that said, though, I have a 65-inch TV. I'm playing it on Xbox Series X, and the font for this massive screen, the text boxes that display the character dialogue that isn't verbalized, by the way, is in the upper right corner, and it takes up such a small part of the screen. You have to literally lean in and squint to read it. It's not vocalized by words. Meanwhile, the game does have voice work only in random chatty bits that the main character says when he's walking through, like, oh, those girls know how to get it. He says that, but when there's actually narrative beats popping up on the side, no one's saying nothing. And that also goes for the cinema scenes, which look nice visually, but all the text is, all the dialogue is in text and it's not verbalized, which seems like they'd been better off using the spoken lines in those scenes than him making random quips when he's walking around town. But What I mean by that, and the reason why I'm making that such a big deal is earlier on, I joked about how I had no idea what was going on in this story. And that's a large part of why, because when they're having these dialogues in the upper right corner discussing stuff that's relevant to the plot, I can't read it. And I'm not going to rush up and squint at the TV just to read what the hell they're talking about. So I didn't care about the plot. I completely stopped caring very quickly. I just ran through the game, killed a bunch of dudes, got some guns and whatever. And quite frankly, that's pretty much how the game went. Now, you might be hearing Pernell rambling and complaining about this thing. Does he like the game? The answer is I don't dislike the game. The game is serviceable. And when the skirmishes are actually happening and I can understand what the hell I'm doing because I'm not being jumped by mystery invisible men, I'm having a good time. It's fun. It does what it needs to do. I've seen a lot of people compare it to The Ascent, which I reviewed for the show maybe 2 years ago. And it might have been a year ago. I don't even remember anymore. But I liked that game. And that was a similar vibe of like top-down skirmishes with cyberpunk aesthetics and the like. And this game gets that too. It's perfectly fine. But again, I just can't get into the whole idea of not being able to read what the heck I'm doing, not being able to read what the characters are saying on the screen, not being able to read what I'm even clicking on in the game when it gives me a pop-up prompt. I just have to kind of remember that, oh, that looks like that's the ATM thing, I think. If I see a pop-up, that must be an ATM. Click it. But I can't read it.
So increase the text size and this will do wonders for the game.
I think so. It'll make a world of difference. Because again, it's not a bad game. I'm not going to be that dick that's like, don't buy this worst game I've ever played in my life. Half the time people say they don't know what they're talking about. But the game is fine. There are some things it needs to do to make it better. So for now, I believe I'm not going to give it a deny it by a long shot, but it will fall into the realm of the try it vibe because if you're one of those people that does play their games and they don't even care about the plot by intention, and they just want to go through murking dudes, well, you'll have fun with this because the battle hacking system is cool. The gunplay when it works is cool. It's just those other things I mentioned.
All right. Next up, Journey to Kreisia, developed by EXE-CREATE, published by KEMCO, released October 31st on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, PC for $14.99. While attempting to skip out on a homework assignment and meet up with his friends at the arcade, a teenager by the name of Eustace is suddenly enveloped in a blinding light and transported to Kreisia, a world where fantasy meets reality. Chris, what is going on in Journey to Kreisia?
All right, well, welcome back to Journey to Kreisia, to the SML podcast. I reviewed this back when it came out on the 3DS almost 50 years ago. and indeed,
close.
Yeah, close. This is actually one of the earliest. I want to say it was either the second or third. I can't remember if Infinite Dunamis, which has yet to come out on Switch, was the second or third one either, but one of them. This is an older EXE-CREATE
episode 207.
800 episodes ago. I talked about this. Oh man.
Oh my god, it's literally 800 episodes ago.
Yeah. That's how long I've been doing this.
Jesus. What is wrong with us?
Right. So that's the end of the review. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, basically I liked the game back then. It was, showing kind of the same promise. It had a more likable cast of characters than the game that had come before it. Now, of course, I'm about 40 of these games deep. KEMCO and EXE-CREATE have done a lot to kind of like gamify the game in that sense. They include a lot more bits and bobs here and there to kind of keep you hooked and keep you engaged beyond just like having a compelling story or likable characters or anything like that. This is before all that. So we've got a much more bare system, which actually kind of is a benefit if you want to think about it. So let's I'll briefly talk about the game itself, and then we can talk about the system. That's how we usually do this. So this is a game starring a male protagonist who... And this one has the special twist of being an isekai, which I did not have that word for 800 years ago when we did the last one, the last time this was released. But now we know this is like a common trope. This is very, very, very common in the sense that they're starting to get meta with it in other areas of like anime and stuff. But yeah, Usus the Useless is a teenager who... he likes anime and video games. Which anime and video games? Who knows? Because all he does is refer to anime and video games in the vaguest terms possible. Although I will say, and I didn't catch that, I don't know if this is in the original, and I didn't catch it really, is that when you briefly do get to walk around his bedroom in the real world, he has an Enna doll on his shelf. Enna is, of course, kind of the mascot of EXE-CREATE. She's... the kind of cyborg character that appears in all of the Alphadia games in one way or another, and she shows up in a lot of EXE-CREATE games, so there's already like a little bit of a... because Alphadia is like kind of like the... if it's not the first, then it's like the flagship series when it comes to KEMCO and EXE-CREATE. Anyways, I a little bit of trivia there for you. You can, we know he at least likes KEMCO EXE-CREATE games. That's one thing we know. But yeah, he gets transported to the fantasy world of Kreisia by a lady called Cynthia, who is one of the 3 races on the planet. This is a very common trope in these games, is that there's 3 races. They're very different. They are a monolith. They all look the same, kind of, weirdness about them. But yeah, she's actually a mixture of 2 races in this game. So she, like, one of the races are basically humans, but they all have green hair. And so Cynthia has 2 little shoots of green hair amongst her red hair. But she also has, like, animal ears and a tail. So, like, that's kind of what's going on here. And then there's a race of, like, your kind of Klingon types who are gruff, like, more gruff and militaristic, and they have horns. One of them joins you, and then a mysterious bard joins you as well. So this is a game with 4 characters, and one of them's a bard. Oh boy. But yeah, basically Usus spends a lot of the game's first many hours trying to determine whether this is just some kind of dream that he's in. Like, he goes to sleep and wakes up for like multiple days and stuff, and like he's transported to this world. He's like the mystical hero of legend, and you're kind of finding out, instead of rejecting the hero's call, he just kind of dives right into it because he thinks this is all a dream, and he's like, it's like a video game, and so I'm going to be like a video game character. And like, it's maddening, honestly. I probably complained about this last time too, but yeah. But his interactions with Cynthia and Animos, who's the bard, his full name is Animos Monochrome. So they had a waste, like, I don't know. As somebody who likes to come up with really stupid names, like I have to give props to that one. But yeah, it's just about their journey together, and like them like kind of figuring out how to like doing basic tasks to like take down the overlord that revives every 10 years and has to be defeated by an isekai hero from the outer realm, quote unquote. So that's the story. So basically, the system that is present in this game, like as soon as you open the inventory, you'll be like, oh wow, this actually is just a regular RPG. You don't see a lot of like putting seeds in pots and letting them grow in real time. There's none of that. There's no swords eating swords, although swords do gain experience points, and you can spend money to transfer the experience points from one sword to the other. So that's the way this goes. The more your weapons gain levels, the more skills you learn. And therefore, when you change weapons, you may lose skills temporarily if you don't pay to have those experience points transferred to the new weapon. So that's kind of like a trade-off that you get for trading weapons. I actually kind of like that system. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, they each have their different weapons. Now, the other interesting thing about this one is that while it does have a shop that is purchased with alternative currency that is gained through battle, Kreisia points, literally, which are, by the way, shortened to KRP, so you're crap. You can buy temporary, healing items, items that temporarily increase your strength or other parameters, or permanently for a cost, or you can buy accessories that will kind of double-edged sword. They'll raise your strength by a lot, but they'll drop your defense by a lot. So yeah, you'll notice.
Said episode 207 starts with us saying so many episodes. Why are we still doing it?
You were saying that in episode 5. I was. You're not gonna catch Joe not.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, you're not gonna catch Joe not disparaging this show in some way.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah, exactly. You're consistent, if nothing else. Anyways, you'll notice that your points, your little points, do not go towards gambling. They don't go towards super high-powered weapons and armor. That's not present in this game. Although you can purchase a lot of different outside things for real-world money, like tripling your experience or toggling encounters on and off. Those are all outside of the game purchases that you can make. So, you can turn this $15 purchase into a $40 purchase if you're so inclined. I will admit I bought at least one of them. They're getting a bit out of control
with some of them.
Yeah, I mean,
getting to be a bit too many boosts in these games.
And the thing is, though, that the game is nice and challenging without them, and I feel like it's pretty well balanced. But yeah, that's but here's the thing:
they're optional, so.
But here's the thing, if you do want those super-powered items, they are in the game. It's just you got to fight in the arena to get them. There's a third kind of currency, which are basically arena battle points that you can get through fighting much harder. They're scaled to various levels. And, of course, the higher the level, the better the reward. But yeah, the lowest one is level 20, which is already 5 or 6 hours into the game. So, and they really drip feed those points at that level. So it's if you really want to grind, you can get an axe for your Klingon who can can attack every enemy on the screen at a very high attack rate, and different really cool weapons that do cool things. You can get those. It's just you actually have to earn them through grinding and getting really powerful anyway. So the game does have like I said, built in that you don't have to purchase. It does have difficulty levels. You can toggle it to easy, hard, very hard, normal. If you put it on easy, I would say that's that's about a pretty casual experience, but not super easy. If you combine that with anything that you purchase as DLC, then you're going to be okay, yeah, there's no more challenge here, except in the arena, because the arena seems, if it doesn't override the difficulty settings, it's just at least that much harder. So that's just I remember from the last time that I kind of got my progress halted in the 3DS version because I kept going back into that arena and playing, and fighting enemies for a very small amount of battle coins. And then I finally got my axe, and then I put the game down forever. So that might happen to you here. So I would actually just recommend playing the game and experiencing the story, because that's kind of what you get to do in this one. So yeah, so the concern that always comes up with the older KEMCO games is, have they made any improvements to the, because these started life as mobile games, so some of them move at a very in a weird way that causes screen tearing and jumping and such when the actual action is scrolling. Sad to say, this game does have that a little bit. It's not silky smooth on the map movement. When you're walking back and forth, there's a little bit of jitter. You, of course, will get used to it, but if you've been playing like the newer EXE-CREATE games or any one of the hit point games, which, you know, those tend to be kind of made a little bit more optimized anyway. If you're used to that, then this game might be a little jarring. You'll be like, oh, this kind of feels like an old mobile game, actually. And you would be right.
Does it feel like an old 3DS game?
No, they did clean up the graphics. The resolution is much higher. The character portraits are redone so that they're in HD now. No, there's no like 3DS artifact about this one. It actually does, you know, look like it's supposed to in the resolution department. It's just like, you know, in the art department and in the way it animates and scrolls, it does have that mobile game feel about it. So, you know, just be forewarned. That's not usually a deal breaker for me, but that is something that indicates that, oh, I'm probably playing a game that's from like 2007 or something.
Well, this one clocks in at 15. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, like all EXE-CREATE games and KEMCO games, I'd say it's a fun enough RPG that's worth your little bit of money bucks if you really are hurting for something that's classic and like I said, you know, keeps your attention enough. They're always well written. This one, of course, I did point out has some like weird ass grammar to it. You know, there's I believe I read like one of these lines because I found it in this game and I took a screen cap of it, but now it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, they have not really cleaned up the grammar in this at all. But apart from that, it's well written. The characters are nice, and it's like you actually do care about what's going on. And so for that, I give it a buy it. But also just know, like, your $15 could buy you like a AAA RPG from like, you know, one of the big franchises, you know, when they go on sale. So it's like, it just depends on what your RPG needs are and you know, whether this meets them. And then again, you can always hold off for a sale because these things go like half off a lot.
Yeah. KEMCO does good sales.
Yeah. They're doing one right now, I think.
One final game to talk about tonight, and we're going naughty times. George, take it away.
SML After Dark.
Final game is Fetish Locator Week 3, developed and published by ViNovella Games, originally released May 2023 on Steam for $19.99. The final DLC released October 30th on Steam for $7.99. The third and final chapter of the saga has arrived. Join our girls for one last ride filled with seduction and a lot of sex. Uncover the mystery surrounding the Fetish Locator app and its creator. Romance over 20 girls and shape the conclusion of your college life in Fetish Locator Week 3. Aki, what is going on in this one?
So much sex.
$20 your verdict? No.
Yes.
$8 your verdict.
Even more, yes. Okay, so in this, you're playing as a college student. This is the third week of him having this Fetish Locator app on his phone. And basically what it is, it's Tinder, but gamified and extremely horny. More so than Tinder already is. So basically people get on it, and it gives them daily things that they can do that all involve sex, and it records it all. Because it gets you points, and with those points you can buy crap. And there's also some secret thing where it decides to start blackmailing you, because fuck your life. That's why you tried to get out of it, and it put you in the retention program, which is it blackmails you and makes you do whatever it wants. So with that happening, in week 1, you and some of the other people in this program decide, well, fuck whoever owns this. We're gonna crash this thing because they can go to hell. And yeah, you are finally getting to the end of what's going on in your third week of owning this. In less than a month, you have done more than most cops do in a year. It's weird. Because when it says week 3, it's literally weeks. Every one of these games is literally a 7-day week. So, yeah. Every day you get to spend your time with one of a bunch of different girls. Sadly, you cannot interact with all of them in a single playthrough. There were a few girls that you got to choose either or in the prior games, and it kind of just stuck with those. There's also girls you can miss in prior games, and if you missed them there, you don't get them here. Thankfully, at the start of every one of these games, you can start up a new game and actually pick choices, whether you actually made those in the prior game or not. Or you can just load save from the end of the prior game as well, so it already has those choices. But this way, if you ended up missing somebody, you can have them locked in for this playthrough, which is really nice. It has a ton of different fetishes, anything from threesomes to incest to fisting. You know, it has the damn right, yay, and yeah. So
wait, does it have this one?
Fall into the abyss of my gaping butthole.
Yes, it does. There's plenty in this bitch. For you weird people, there's even foot fetish stuff. Have fun. So yeah, you for all 3 of these games, for the most part, you're just trying to figure out who is running this and where they are, so you can get yourselves out of this program and hopefully shut down the whole thing before it starts really fucking everybody over. And in this one, you finally get to the end of it. And it's a twist that I didn't see coming at all.
Well, don't spoil it.
Yeah, obviously not. And yeah,
if people want to know the goods, they got to play it themselves.
Damn straight. There are a bunch of different endings to this game. And by that, I don't mean, you get to the end of the game and whatever romance is, that's your ending. No, there is an endings like that, but there's also ones that end in the middle of the game. So if you have certain romances and have chosen to do certain things, you can actually more or less run away with a character or characters in some instances. And that's where that end is. And it gives you a big old thing where, this is what they go and do with their life. It's basically an epilogue, which is really nice. There are 2 bits of DLC for this game, which we will hopefully be covering next week, I'm hoping. Really depends on if we get to the DLC or not. But they add more of those in it, because the game started with, I think, like 9 or 10 or something like that in there, and then they brought out a free DLC that added even more of them, and then another DLC that's like $8 or something like that, I think it was, that adds the last of them in there, because I just finished that. And yeah, so this is real fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I am still on my first playthrough. I am almost done with it. I have obtained like 4, maybe 5 different endings so far.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm still on my first playthrough, because I every time I see a path where it could be run off with this person, I make a save and I run off with that person, because damn it, I want to see that happy end. Or bittersweet end, as some of them are. Every girl has their own issues and stuff, so not all of them end necessarily super happy. You know, things work out for them, but
I know, based on the screenshots I'm looking at, everyone seems pretty happy.
Oh yeah, they're pretty happy, but bad situations still abound. Oh yeah. So much nudity.
There's a reason why we're not linking this one in chat, folks.
Yeah. I think there might be maybe so far out of this entire game, I might be able to show you maybe an hour of it. Maybe.
God,
And
I
I've
put Jacob's head on all these pictures.
And I've put, let's see here. Let's make a save real quick, because I've been playing this the entire time we've been doing reviews. 'Cause I just don't care. Let's quit out of the game so I can get my Steam updated. I have put 11 hours into it, and
12,
I might
11.9.
And I might be able to show you maybe an hour of it, because the rest of it is nudity as far as the eye can see. And so it's great fun. I am working towards the harem ending because of course I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's all sorts of flavors for everybody. You know, there's even a dude that you can romance in this. So there's that for the individuals who want that. He doesn't show up until most of the way through the second game, but hey, whatever. Still, he's adorable. And yeah, it's great fun. I really like the writing. It's really funny throughout most of the whole time, actually. It's pretty funny because the character is just the most inept horn dog. And yet everyone loves this idiot, and it's so fantastic.
Oh, God. Well, let's talk price on this one. It's a $20 game. You're just talking about the game right now, not the DLC, right?
Yes.
Okay, so give us your thoughts on the game.
The game, I think it's totally worth it. But you kind of really need to play the first and second game as well, because it's kind of important to know what the fuck's going on. Otherwise, the sex will still be great, but the story isn't gonna really mean much, and you're not gonna know how most of these characters ended up meeting or anything, because almost every character in this
you need the lore for the trilogy.
Exactly. At least I do. Maybe you guys don't. Damn it. Damn it. I said unique, didn't I? Son of a...
No, Joe said...
Need.
Yeah, Joe said you need.
Okay, I thought you said unique. I was like, I don't remember saying that, but oh no. I would suggest getting all. I would suggest getting all three of them. I think all of them are worth the asking price.
All right, easily. And hopefully we'll talk about the DLC in the future if we're able to.
So. I hope so. Once this goes live, I will be getting them this information. Hopefully, we can get that key for the DLC.
Cool beans.
And then it might be for another game too. Woo!
I hope there's more buttholes in it.
I am very sure it is, because this company's also made I don't know if it's a sequel, a prequel, or something completely unrelated. And apparently all of its chapters are going to be even longer than these ones, and these are already like 20, 40 hour long games if you want to do everything in it. So
what you're saying is in the future we're going to talk about these on
It's Movie Watch.
There.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm on the soundboard now, so I just want to click shit.
Talking about Riz and Skibbity Toilet and all that.
I love and hate that one at the same time.
Yeah, I know. So that's it for this episode. We made it through.
That folder almost killed me. Jesus Lord.
Hooray.
I love that one. We made it through. Thanks to everyone for being here, hanging out the whole time. Big thanks to Andy for coming on, doing his thing as well. Massive thanks for Sam for coming on, chatting about Die on That Hill. Check out the Kickstarter. It'll be in the show notes if you need to click on it. Back it, throw some money at Sam, make it happen. Music this episode, we are going to play something from Pokérus Project, who just put out their album Critical Hit. What do you think of that?
Pinky.
Fucking yeah.
Fucking yeah. Vampire Killer or Rainbow Road?
Vampire Killer.
All right. Any final words?
Vampire Killer. Also, have a good night. Get some sleep. It's 8 hours is important. I'll die on that hill.
That's a good hill to die on.
I haven't.
On Kickstarter now.